Hi there. I want to make another video because I think this is an interesting topic. I don't know how many times I've brought up mental health on this channel, but I think it's a very important topic for anyone really, because for the people who don't have it or don't really understand it, you need to have a bit of knowledge about it so you can help address it and make people's lives better. And that's how I see it with mental health issues that I don't necessarily cope well with, or even see even talk about things that I practically don't have. So something like schizophrenia, don't have, I don't think, but I understand that people have it, and it should be more tolerable of schizophrenia for that matter. I think that's really important because people are just going to end up unhappy and unsafe, and then because people throw that word around schizo, which is ableist language, people are just going to feel unsafe about sharing that. And also because people do these correlation causation fallacies, which is very prevalent nowadays, which I'm surprised nobody's called out. There's practically no room to be safe in coming out of something. And for that matter, there's no pride really in having it, and that's kind of a shame really. Like, yeah, mental health issues are there because I think they are issues. I don't think you can really take pride in it, to be honest, but I think you need to be proud to an extent to at least have it and make people aware of it, so you need to make sure it's like normalised in the world. That's the entire point of disability brand and stuff like that. I could be very well wrong on it, but I just see this as a massive thing. It's not acknowledged nearly enough as it should be. But I want to talk about something specific today, and that's about anxiety in gaming. So I got kicked from a match in Deep Rock Galactic earlier for no reason, and I think it might have been a player purge because it's like the more players mod. But I did just install the shout framework, which allows you to use voice lines. I don't spam them like other people. I think some people overuse it sometimes. I tend to enjoy like what comes out of that sort of interaction. Like I could do it at the beginning of a mission or at the end, and then yeah, no harm done. It's not getting annoying anyone for that matter. But I have this anxiety about being kicked, and I did get kicked. And I try not to overthink it really, and what I came to realise was the kick reason wasn't there. But the fact that there's no kick reason means that there was no good reason to kick me, so I didn't do anything wrong, technically speaking. And so the logic there is pretty much that you can't really be anxious about this sort of thing. Easier said than done, but try not to overthink it again. Because I think that's sort of the problem with anxiety. It just causes you to make up things that don't exist, scenarios. It's true for most people, it isn't actually true for me in real life at the moment, but trying to address it. It's really important to acknowledge that a lot of anxiety is just things that you make up in your head. There's a lot of what ifs go wrongs, and you know, it's a pretty vicious cycle. I feel like we've forgotten a lot of that sort of thing. But also, I have to state here that I'm not a trained psychologist or psychiatrist or anything, therapist, whatever. It's simply something that I've come to understand, and because I'm on the autism spectrum, it's sometimes easier to sort of figure out a pattern to address these things, so I don't beat myself up over it. And I also do the same thing like online as well. Like all of what I say here applies to online forums and stuff like Reddit, which is accessible. I don't know why I still use it. I guess it's just with media, but yeah, sometimes you actually get some good stuff on Reddit, like artwork and sometimes good interactions, but there's also you also get notified when there's big things around, like Genshin Impact, for example. You can find out there's secret achievements and stuff. So that's helpful. But yeah, it's definitely a rough situation. In an ideal world, we wouldn't have this fucking problem. But we do, because there is problems with it. And it sort of brings me back to Team Fortress 2 to an extent. It reminds me of when I used to just play casual non-stop, and there are differences between the maps, ironically, unironically, I don't know. Every map had a specific player base, and that's one of the crazy things about it. It's one of the only games I've ever known to have like specific players for specific maps. It's like the balance is all over the place, and it's just not fun. It's frustrating to an extent, and I get annoyed when I see in the TF2 or even Deep Rock when players just get toxic. I've not encountered any of that in Final Fantasy XIV, for example, which goes to show respect the player, respect time, and that respects anything really. Like things logically follow from that. So yeah, trying to think. Oh yeah, I was kicked from a TF2 lobby once for a low score, and this is what I mean by the player-based specific maps. They do exist because if you look at TF2 sort of player numbers and stuff, like the casual lot play on 2-4 and double cross for that matter. Like these are maps that are really easy to play and understand, and they're pretty trivial in concept. I guess I don't know what I mean by that. Scrap that. But players play those because they're fun and they're longer for game mode. So whether you play seriously or not, it doesn't matter. You get players that go there for fun, and that's all that it is really. I'd play it for fun, to be honest, not the bloody game mode. And I think it gets really kind of tricky when you go into maps like Dust Bowl. Like attack defenders usually pretty competitive players. You also get competitive players on Control Point because that's a popular competitive mode. And it's fucking sucks because you want to play the map for fun and you can't because competitive players play that map. It's actually ridiculous. It makes the game really unenjoyable. And it's strange that we didn't get this on Overwatch, but I suppose it makes sense because it's a random map pool, which actually probably eliminated a lot of toxicity that could have happened. Also, there was a lot of toxicity in that game, casual or not, and that really made it frustrating. But at TF2 again, King of the Hill, you've got a mixed bag. Payload, you get mostly casual players. It's not always, but you can. Payload Race, you can, depending on the map. Banana Bay, typically. It's my favourite map, but it's got the most sort of casual players I've seen, I think. But a map like Hightower, you bet your ass people are sweating their arse off on there. Secret Keep, people do take that seriously for some reason, even though it doesn't feel like it. But players who crit hack and that's just not fun. They're probably banned now, actually. I don't know. It's just interesting. Yeah, that's like a brief look into like how games can end up having toxic player bases based around maps. Just these fucking areas that seem to appeal to them for some reason or another. Which is just crazy to think about. Again, I've never known a game like it. it's just like an atmosphere that's created by it. Just making a thumbnail here. I'm gonna do the video in it. I'm trying to think what else to talk about. Yeah, how to deal with anxiety a bit more in depth, I guess. I think it's really important to just understand that if you're worried about playing a game, it's because of how players will judge you. Remember that if you're a new player, you're just a new player. People are going to insult you, that's a fact, but these people don't have any validity to their claims because they are once a noob like you. And I say noob as a sort of casual term, not an insult. I describe myself as a noob when I start a new type of game. It's just, you can't really take these insults seriously because, as I've said for years, insults don't cause change to happen. It's as simple as that. And what does cause change to happen is if you actually help someone to fucking realise what they're doing wrong and stuff. Like, Deep Rock is a great game to learn because you only need to observe what other players are doing. And it's crazy, but I still sometimes discover new things every day in Deep Rock. And it's just a testament to how good the game is and how non-toxic the player base is. So I did get a sort of player recently actually sort of called out the scouts for not buying up the cave and the new scouts, like level like 10 and 16 or something like that. They're low level. That's no problem. Like, you have to learn at your own pace as well. And because it's like a hazard free, which is like easy difficulty to most people, it's not really a problem. I could perfectly play that on my own actually. It's the equivalent of a Hazard 4 solo. If nobody contributed theirs. There's really no problem with being new at a game. It's again, it ties into the thing about it's all being made up. I'm not saying that all anxiety is unfounded, so I think there's definitely validity to them, hence why they exist. I think you need to sort of try to find a way to cope yourself, and why I say necessarily, not necessarily is the way to do it. It depends on many different factors. Like, I don't know what's the perfect way to deal with anxiety in games. But actually, I've had anxiety confirmed from my own experience of playing them myself, like single player. I just don't enjoy games that are too difficult and don't respect my time. I've found that really tense and anxiety inducing as well as stressful, which I don't need right now. Because I'm stressed out my fucking mind, I have a stomachache. It feels like I've been swallowing razor blades and something that's going through my digestive system. It's fucking horrific, and apparently I'm on my way to a stroke, so yeah. So if that happens, I might not come back, so that's fun. I think what else is there to talk about? It's weird, I don't actually remember when I used to play games for the first time and be anxious. I've had anxiety my whole life and not realised it. I had in school because I used to get sick a lot. And people, actually just teachers, used to think I was making it up. Me feeling sick, and they said like, no more, you're going to school, you're going to do it, you're going to have to stop making excuses. And then one day I was actually sick. It was like, oh, I actually vomited, and it's embarrassing. That's the sort of thing I worry about with anxiety as well. Being sick everywhere and just making a scene of some sort. It's frustrating. I think there's a long way to go for society in general. People need to understand that regardless of player skill level or not, like, nobody's going to be like you, nobody's perfect. I think people have to come to terms with that, especially in a competitive game, which is where there's a lot of toxicity. It's because people put their egos before other people's well-being, essentially, which is no different to capitalism or monopolies for that matter. Like, it's completely self-centered garbage, and let's be honest, that's what it is. It's completely selfish. Yeah. Don't think there's anything else. I don't know. I think I pretty much covered on everything there. Usually when I'm in a situation like this, I try to sort of run through my game anxiety situation. So like start to finish, like what game do I join? Have I read the description? If there is a description on the games, then thing. I don't think I missed anything, to be honest. I think there is like a telling sign in some games though that players are toxic. One of the ways is that some players don't interact with you if you interact with them. So, like saying TF2, you go up to a scout and say, "That squad's a bloody spy." And if they're not responding back, like with a voice not like yeah or no, or saying spy back even, it's probably a sign that they're not exactly friendly. So, that's worrying. And it's similar in Deep Rock Galactic, where nobody really rock and stones. I've certainly been in lobbies alone where I just rock and stone on my own. It's like that meme that came out recently. The guy look at you strangely. Rock and stone. Uh, I think it's fine to leave lobbies like that, even if it's like as a bounty for it. The TF2 and Deep Rock are actually pretty good for that sort of thing because you don't get penalised for it. But yeah, I remember once I left a TF2 game because of some blatant transphobia. It's just fucking annoying to see. It doesn't need to be there. I just don't get what's wrong with the world at times. I'm not going to sort of waste my energy on it. It's sort of been a recent revelation, actually. I sort of stopped worrying about things as much. Try to focus a lot on my own mental health so I can actually help others more. But strangely enough, helping others is better for me than helping myself. That's why I'm making this. Just I can't stand to see suffering in the world, and that's something that's inherent to my being and probably a lot of other people's beings. It's all about being kinder to each other as well. You know, when you see like in a game, for example, like Final Fantasy or even World of Warcraft, where you're sort of rolling on the gear. Is that even a thing in Modern Warfare? I know it's a thing in Classic. I don't know, but it is a thing in Modern Warfare. I remember when raiding, you sometimes got the items, and it was up to the raid leader to dish them out based on the item level on the person. Except for E-Girls, but because E-Girls got all the items. That was something that happened actually. It's pretty awkward. There's me, an underleveled mage or hunter or something, and this E-Girl dying in the AoE mechanics and stuff. Just gets the best item that just dropped. But it's good to leave those sort of guilds as well, like when they're not evenly distributing things and it's just favoritism. You know, even then, like giving it to someone who's actually failing at the raid is probably a better idea than giving it to someone who doesn't fail at the raid mechanics, whatever. You know, it's also about kindness. So, like, if you don't actually need something, there's like if it's a tiny upgrade, just leave it for someone else. It's as simple as that. You don't really need the power creep, even though it's like a tiny sort of gain in DPS and so. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to talk about. Hopefully, this was interesting to some people. probably isn't as many, but I don't know. I think it's important to sort of make this video because I think people struggle with it sort of unknowingly or knowingly. There's definitely been some discussion around it online. I've seen it around before. There's also, I forgot to touch on this, which is actually important. I think I'll add this at the end. You can stop now if you're just here for the anxiety chat, but also there's the discrimination against women in gaming, multiplayer gaming to be specific, and it was pretty horrific. I always knew it was bad, and even though my first girlfriend was technically a gamer girl, I went out with her for that reason. I don't know, my first girlfriend, fourth, I think. I've been around a bit. There's a lot of discrimination against gamer girls, and that's sad to see. Because there's no inherent difference between, obviously, male, female, even MB. Stuck on something level. I think a lot of the issues around this come around from trolls, because obviously trolls are initiating this stuff, harassing women online, and yeah, you can definitely see how that becomes a problem. I've witnessed it myself sometimes, not all the time, luckily, but it has appeared here and there. It's frustrating because it just seems so stupid as well. Like, do you have something better to do with your time than to harass women online? I think even worse than that is like women can't use voice chat, for example, because there's a risk of safety and stuff. Because you get people being sexist and stuff. Like, I remember once in an Overwatch competitive match, everyone was using voice chat except me because I was quite nervous, and some idiots were just harassing this woman who was just trying to play the game. I told them to like shut the fuck up, and they didn't. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating that this is all happening, and I think I've got two different types of messages for people about this sort of thing. It's not necessarily for women. Like, for women, I think it's best to do what's right for you. If you can handle a toxic voice chat or stuff, or just handle trolls in general, if you can do that, that's good. And keep going, but if you can't, it's fine to just stick to text chat and stuff. I forgot what I was going to say, fuck. Yeah, it's a message to the trolls and stuff. I think sometimes trolls come from a place of hurt or anger or something, or even mental illness or mental health. I don't think it's out of the question. I said this in my TF2 video recently, actually, about bot hosters. I think there's a place for forgiveness and stuff, but you need to make the change. It's pretty obvious, and I've come from experience here as someone who used to sort of throw games and Overwatch and be toxic. My sort of anger came from being frustrated with a game mechanic, and I took that on other people, which wasn't fair. Now, if I was the one in those people's situations who I've seemingly hurt, it's not a pleasant place to be in, and that's something that's quite horrifying. If you still don't understand what I mean, imagine sort of hitting yourself right now with a bar or something, like hit yourself on the leg or the knee. Not as hard as you can, but enough to feel pain. But imagine that like a few hundred times. And now can you imagine someone else being hit by that? Because that's what they feel. They feel the exact same thing, they feel pain. That's empathy in a nutshell. I'll probably explain that badly, but I tried. with like a word sort of thing. Like if you're called a say an R word, then yeah, like it probably means nothing to you, but for someone else it probably does mean something, and that's kind of horrifying. I've definitely been called the R word a few times, just like everywhere. Been called it in every game, I think, except for Deep Rock. Honestly, Final Fantasy. Haven't called it on that. It's just not a fun situation to be in, so if you put yourself in the victim's place, it's never a good thing. So if you can't really stomach the thought of how that person might feel, well, why are you doing it? Like, if you even are harassing them, you surely have something better to do with your time than doing that, right? Because if that's all you do, then that's unfortunate. I think you should get professional help, pretty much. I think I've mixed the two messages together. Could be wrong. Yeah, if there's only trolls or toxic players, you need to change. No question about that. How you change, I don't 100% know, but I know from my own experience it's been linked to empathy. And for people it could be just like just a realization suddenly, like it could be even like reading something online about it. I think you need to understand what people feel in the situation. That's important. Like, empathy is a tool that's really good. To put it simply, I think without empathy that it's causing the world to suffer. And I've noticed it's just all over the place. And the world without empathy is a world bound to repeat history, isn't it? Like, can you imagine the world if there was a World War III or something like that? I definitely can't imagine how horrific that would be. You know, people who lack empathy are the weakest people, let's be honest. I came to realise that after I turned vegan. Because for those that don't know, I turned vegan in 2020. I've been on it for 4 years, this diet, lifestyle, not diet. It's important to say there's a lifestyle about avoiding exploitation of animals. But one thing I realised is that toxic masculinity is a real thing, and you do not want to get sucked up in that because it is one of the weakest and lowest forms of is it being or communication? I don't know what you call it. State? I don't know, but it's the weakest form of whatever it is because it's just not something strong to do, like preying on the weak, preying on the vulnerable, not being man enough to make change. Like, that's a big thing, to be honest. Like, the difference between changing and not changing. I think there's a huge gap in that, and if you just fail to change, you're just going to sink lower and lower. And this more likely sort of links to game toxicity. I think the sooner you change, the better. I think that's all I've got to talk about. Got a bit messy at the end. I don't know what happened there. I've got stuff to do, and I'll end this video. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this interesting. Always leave a comment if you have something to ask or discuss. I read all the comments and respond if I can. I don't always know what to respond, and that's an anxiety thing. I do try.